Okay, we're live.
Hello, everybody. My name's Aaron Hall. I'm here with Rylan Warner and Jennifer Howard today, and we are here for our weekly update on some things in the news in the world of immigration. So each of us will give an update about something in the news, and then, as always, if anybody has questions while we're doing this this video, we will respond to them in the comments. And if not, if you watch this later, you're welcome to contact us with questions, or you can always tune in Thursdays at noon Mountain Time and get your questions in there. So, Rylan, do you want to start?
Sure, yeah. So they announced this week that there's this program called H-2B Visas, which, if you're not familiar with what an H-2B visa is, it's for a temporary employment offer for someone to come into the United States and work in a job that only has a very limited scope of where and when they can work. So for this current batch of H-2B visas that they just actually announced we're out of them, they can only issue 33,000 of them per half of the fiscal year. And the fiscal year for USCIS actually starts in October. So we're about to reach the beginning of the fiscal year, even though we're in almost the end of 2022. This is the beginning of fiscal year 2023 for USCIS. And so they had 33,000 temporary work visas available for people that could work in a very temporary position. These types of positions are maybe ski resorts where they have a very seasonal need for people to come in and help work on the ski resorts, but it doesn't last all year long. So they only need workers for around 6 months. And so around 33,000 people can get visas during this half of the year. And so far, they're saying, okay, no more. We've got all 33,000 people that we're going to give visas to, and we're not going to get any more. And typically, it's a little bit easier to get visas in the winter months for these types of H-2B visas. So meaning the first half of the fiscal year from October to April of the following year. That's because, there's not a lot of types of positions that have an increase in demand during that time of the year. The more popular half of the fiscal year is the second half of the fiscal year, starting in April of next year and going then to October of next year. So that's for people that have a lot of booming demand, maybe during the summer months for a bunch of tourist industries. Maybe you have hotels where you need a lot more housekeepers available because there aren't enough to keep up with the demand during the summer months. So if that is something that you're interested in, say maybe you have a landscaping business, for example, and you're saying, wow, yeah, during the summer months, I can never find workers. I need workers just for a 6-month period to help me out during the summer busy months with my landscaping business. You can actually try to apply for these H-2B visas. But if you're interested in doing that for next year, you should start the process now and maybe schedule a consultation with us now because we are going to need to do a little bit of work before we can actually submit what's ultimately going to be a kind of a lottery registration for you. So the way they do these, because there's such a high demand for these 33,000 visas, they run a lottery system, and then you will be put into a certain category, and each category has higher priorities than the other based off of your lottery determination. And so it means that you will either be more likely or less likely to actually get your H-2B workers in the summer. But again, let's get started on it now. If you're interested in doing something like that, we're available for that. We've done that here at Joseph and Hall for a while now, and we're ready to take on your case if you're ready for it. But schedule a consultation with us if you think that maybe that's something that could be used by you or you might be eligible for, and we can walk you through the whole process in more detail, give you an idea of all the costs and the timelines there. So yeah, not too exciting, but that's what I had to talk about this week.
Okay, Jennifer, do you want to give your update?
Sure. So last week, USCIS announced that they will be extending temporary protected status, or TPS, for people from Venezuela who have been here in the United States since at least, have resided continuously since March 8th, 2021, and have continuous physical presence since March 9th, 2021. And so March 9th, 2021 is that original designation date for TPS for Venezuela. The period was originally set to expire on September 8th, which was the day I believe they announced this last week. And so the way it's going to work for people that already have TPS from Venezuela is their employment authorization is automatically extended through September 9th, 2023, so for a year. But TPS, the designation, has been extended through March 10th of 2024, so it's about an extra 6 months from that auto extension. And so what people need to do who have TPS for Venezuela is re-register for TPS if they want to get that additional 60 days protection and work authorization. And there is a 60-day re-registration period that runs from this past week, September 8th, until November 7th, 2022. So there's not a whole lot of time. We have about a month and a half for people to get those applications in. And so, yeah, if you need to talk to somebody about that, you can always contact us or another experienced immigration attorney in the area. And, we can discuss that case if you're a current client or, you're somebody that had TPS with us in the past and we haven't reached out to you. You can also reach out to us. I know I've already reached out to my Venezuelan clients, but
Good
yeah.
thinking. And Jennifer, there were a lot of dates there, but you said that you're going to write a blog post about this, right?
Yes. Yes.
So I don't know when that'll be up, but you can check our website for when Jennifer puts up a blog post. It'll have all those dates written out just in case you missed any of them, and you can get an outline of it.
Yeah, it's a lot of dates, and I talk fast. But the dates are also on the USCIS website if you search like TPS Venezuela, and then they're also in the Federal Register. But all that will be linked in the blog post as well.
Yeah, but our website looks way prettier than those other websites, so you should just come to our website instead.
Yeah.
And Aaron, I know that you wanted to talk about something a little bit controversial. Is that right?
Well, it's actually related to what Jennifer was talking about there about Venezuelans. So I've seen in the news over the last couple of days some weird reports about immigrants being recent arrivals being shipped to Martha's Vineyard. And what it looks like is at least the Florida governor, Ron DeSantis, is actually taking credit for it. But it seems like, from what I can see in the reporting, a lot of the people actually originated in Texas and were flown to Florida, where possibly more people were picked up. And then there was a stopover in South Carolina, and then up to the Northeast, where they were taken to Martha's Vineyard. Now, why are they doing this? Well, apparently it's some kind of political statement to say, I guess they think that Martha's Vineyard is like symbolic of rich liberals. And so they are shipping recent arrivals there saying, listen, you take care of these people who have arrived in our country. The vast majority of people on this flight or these flights are Venezuelans. People who have fled the terrible regime of Maduro in Venezuela, and it's just well, first of all, it's horrible to be using these people as pawns for your political statement. They reportedly they're getting people onto flights by promises of faster work permits if they get on the flight and go there. Which, if true, we don't know who's saying that, but that's what's been reported. I mean, that's just fraudulent. There's no way somebody's getting a faster work permit because they relocate from Texas or Florida or South Carolina to Martha's Vineyard. So there should be some investigations onto how they're having these people board the plane. But it's also just incredible that Ron DeSantis is doing this. I was looking up because I remembered something about this, and And I found that last November, he actually had a signing ceremony when he declared in Florida that November 7th is going to be Victims of Communism Day. And in that statement, he said, he cited the 650,000 Cubans who had relocated from Cuba to Florida in a certain time period, fleeing Castro's regime. And he also referenced other victims of communism, which you would think would include Venezuelans who are fleeing right now. Instead, he's demonizing them, acting like giving them an opportunity to seek refuge from the regime they're fleeing is somehow a horrible thing to do, and shipping them around the country as if they're just, pawns in some kind of political statement. The other thing that I thought was interesting was that the JFK Presidential Library put out a statement about this. And their statement was actually a newspaper clipping from 1963, which was about white supremacist groups in the South busing African Americans to northern liberal cities to make a statement and try to humiliate northern politicians and northern liberals. And so this just echoes what was done then, tricking people, using people as pawns to try to prove some kind of stupid statement. So it's insulting. It's dumb. The good news is that people in Martha's Vineyard, they're not upset by it. They weren't contacted or prepared for this, so they weren't ready for people, but they've quickly mobilized, and there have been volunteers helping at churches to host the people who have arrived. And I'm sure that they're going to be setting up legal clinics to help people who have arrived. And so there has been a welcoming from the local community there, which is a good thing. And I wish all the people who have been flown up there well. I just wish that they hadn't been, that it hadn't happened under fraudulent circumstances and as part of this giant political stunt.
Yeah, and this is, it's a pattern of not only Governor DeSantis doing something like this, but Governor Greg Abbott of Texas has been doing this a lot, sending people to New York, sending people to a lot of more liberal cities where, I'm a little bit almost of two minds, because there might actually be more resources available for people there. So it might potentially be somewhat of a good thing, but using people as a political prop is ridiculous. But one of the things that makes this so egregious is, I don't know if you knew this, I didn't know this, but Martha's Vineyard is a small island. It's an island. Like there's not an immigration court there. There is not resources available for these people there. And so a lot of these governors and just Republican politicians are saying, well, we are sending people to where there are resources available. Martha's Vineyard is not one of those places, okay? There are no resources here. Thankfully, there was this church community that was able to get together really quickly and be able to support these people. But, if they need to go to an immigration court for an asylum case, they're not going to be able to do it on this island off the coast of the United States where there just are not facilities available for them. So it's completely ridiculous to put these people in these positions, and it's abhorrent, personally. So yeah.
And to be clear, like when you think about what they're actually arguing, they're saying that the United States should turn its back on treaties that have been signed. Basically saying, in the wake of World War II, saying that we would provide refuge to people who qualified legally as refugees in the form of asylum applications, that's how we would provide refuge, and that we would process people, and our domestic laws say this too, that we will process people's applications if they arrive in the United States, if they're here. And if you take their positions to their ends, what they're saying is, no, we shouldn't do that. We should just, not care what happened following in World War II to people, to Jewish people and other people who were persecuted and killed by Nazis, and in subsequent regimes, and in subsequent what subsequent groups have done in countries all around the world. And to me, that's just offensive that we're just going to say, no, we're not going to do that. And they never say that part, that's what they want to do, but that's the only logical end to their arguments.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So that's depressing.
Yeah, it's very, very frustrating.
But it is always uplifting to see communities rally, on no notice and provide support and provide a welcoming place for people. The last thing, and I told Rylan and Jennifer before we started this that I was just going to rant, and so I am. But the last thing I'll say is that a lot of people, their go-to point is that, what are we supposed to do? Absorb the whole population of Venezuela, absorb the whole population of other countries who are suffering. And their assumption is that everybody wants to come to the United States. And it's a kind of egotistical assumption in my position, in my opinion. What the facts say is that countries like Colombia and Peru have absorbed far more Venezuelans than the United States, because that's where they go, and it makes sense. Maybe they have ties, they speak the language. As an example, Colombia has accepted something like I saw a stat that said that if we accepted the same amount of percentage as Colombia has accepted since like 2014 from Venezuela, then we would have allowed 41 million Venezuelans into the country. That's what it looks like to their population and what they've accepted. And it's not that it's always smooth for countries like Colombia or Peru, but the point is, countries around the world are accepting people fleeing Venezuela and other terrible situations. It's not just the United States, but the United States does have a country of 300 million people and a historical, at least stated commitment to being a place of refuge. And so we should be doing our part, and more than our part. We should be a leader in this, not a place where we're trying to just shut the door. So
yeah. And just sorry to add one little more note on this, because I was having a conversation with my uncle about this not too long ago, and he, brought up something that I hadn't really thought about before. But there are 1.5 million undocumented U.S. citizens in Mexico. And so talking about where people are winding up or who's doing what where and who's moving where and all those sorts of things, U.S. citizens are violating immigration laws in other countries as well. So acting as if the U.S. is the only place where this is ever happening and people are just wanting to come here and that it's so unfair what happens to the United States, even though we have so much capacity to take on people that need it. But it's funny to think of the other way that works, and how there are millions of U.S. citizens in Mexico that do not have legal status there. But you never hear about that. You just don't. So
very true. I wanted to, switching gears here, and this goes into the questions in the comment section from Ronald DaCosta. And hello, Ronald. It's nice to see your name. There's big news in one of our cases, big hearing tomorrow. It's oral argument for diversity visa cases for the year 2020 and 2021. Our case in that group is called Go, and that's what Ronald is saying. He says he's a Go plaintiff and very afraid of the judges for tomorrow, and asking about my views, and then he asks about our judges influenced by the presidents who appointed them. So yes, tomorrow's a big day. There'll be countless lawyers arguing in court tomorrow. There's a long list of lawyers who are splitting up various issues, but our friend Jesse Bless is arguing really the bulk of the legal argument for the diversity visa applicant side. Charles Cook is doing the argument on the increase for visas for Go plaintiffs. And then obviously the government attorneys will be making their arguments. No predictions from me. I feel strong about our arguments, as I always have, and I think that there is great reason for most of Judge Mehta's decision. And remember, it's the government appealing, trying to overturn Judge Mehta's decision. It's not our side who lost below. So I feel good about that. The question about the judges on the panel, there's one judge who was appointed by Trump, one by George Bush, and one by Obama, if I have that right. I think it's Obama, not Clinton. But the question is, are they influenced by that? I'm not naive in thinking that judges are free from political influence or anything like that. I think that they are influenced, but it's kind of the chicken and the egg, right? Are they influenced because a certain president appointed them? I don't think really, because but they were appointed for a reason, right? So the president and the people advising the president recommended that these judges be appointed because they have a certain viewpoint, and so I think they're influenced by that, what their pre-existing viewpoint was, and towards legal issues and political issues as well. So I do think that plays in. Remember, though, that this lawsuit is challenging policies of presidents from both parties. It started as a challenge in 2020 to policies enacted by President Trump, but then in 2021, Trump wasn't in charge starting in January of 2021, despite what he'd have you think. So it's not that it's just a challenge to one party's policies or the other parties. It's a challenge to presidents from both parties. So we will be tuning in. There is a live stream available. I think it'll be audio only on the United States Court of Appeals for the DC Circuit website, so people can listen in if they would like. And we'll be listening in tomorrow as well. And just know that there will not be a decision tomorrow. This is an oral argument. There will probably be there will be a number of months before we actually get a written decision. I think on average it's like 3 months. It could be sooner, could be later, but it's going to be a little while before we have an actual decision.
And he had one more question. Does the chief judge have more power than other judges while making a decision?
Nope. There are 3 judges on the panel, and whichever 2 had decided one way, then that's the decision. It doesn't matter if the chief's on one side and the other 2 are on the other.
All right. Well, those are all the questions. Thank you, Ronald. Yeah, I guess we're good to go.
All right. Thank you, everybody. See you next week.
See ya.